just budget, but I mean cash flow. I mean, if you look at the bank account, most people wouldn't realize, I didn't, how critically low the cash flow is to the city. You probably do remember a couple of years ago, though, I think, or something where they really didn't even hardly have money in the bank for payment. But they're better than that, but still, it's very slim. Two, I believe that we lack a plan. I believe that we lack, as a city, community, I believe we lack a plan, or we lack a vision of where do we want to be in 5 years, where do we want to be in 10 years, and probably more importantly, where we're going to be in 20 years when our kids are in these positions. If we just continue along without a plan, I'm afraid we'll be kind of about where we are right now. But I believe with a vision and a plan, I learned that in emergency management. When you're dealing with a disaster, the first thing we did was sit down and made objectives. What's the objective of this storm? What's our objective? And then once we have an objective, it's my job to find the resources to accomplish that. And that's the approach I want to take to city government. So we got to have a vision or objective. Looking at the books, I don't think we've obtained grant funding for the city anywhere probably like we should have or maybe could have. We ain't gonna catch all the big fish, guys, but we got to go fishing. You can't just leave the boat in the yard because it's cloudy. And so we've got to fish, and I don't think we've really done that lately. I noticed from reading the minutes for the past 3 years, we've had a lot of trouble agreeing on things at the city. And I respect those people for standing up for what they believe in, but in many cases, we haven't passed a budget until 9 months late. The budget that should have went in effect on July 1 didn't go in effect for 8 or 9 months later because we couldn't agree on a few things in the budget. I want to fix that. The city council, the government's number one responsibility to you all, their number one job is to pass a budget. It's for the city to live by that budget. And so if we're not passing the budget, then we're just running on whatever, some type of spending agreement that spins off of last year, and we're not the federal government. We can't do that. We've got to pass the budget, and we've got to utilize that budget to help us grow. Sewer plant, not so great. It's very old, not unlike many other towns our size. We're running with a sewer plant that's extremely old, needs upgrades or replaced, which would cost millions of dollars. And to the point right now where we're just trying to waddle through deficiencies and things with EPA because we're so old. So that's one thing I've seen so far. But we do run, I think Dave told me, about 6 things that, ideas that I had that I want you to remember. It's just ideas. And I mainly want ideas from you guys because I've already talked to a few people and they've shared things with me, and I'm like, wow, I just never would have thought of that. I mean, no one person's going to think of all the great ideas. So I want you to know that I'm committed to work with everybody from Katrina Vargo to President Obama to see our city grow regardless of what the party is or what position they're in. I believe that we need to use the resources that we have, and we do have some. We was talking at the table back there. Some of the resources I believe we have that we haven't utilized, Katrina and I talked about a lot, is the river. And I do think there's possibility there. It's not going to be easy, it's not going to be quick, and it is the big sandy, it is muddy, so it's not just simple go down and throw some concrete on the riverbank and you got a spectacular place to go. It's going to take some planning. But tourism in Kentucky is big right now. We're putting a lot of money into tourism, and adventure tourism specifically being the number one thing right now. So our river, venture tourism, zip lines, canoe, kayak, can we somehow make this happen? We have the locks, we have the boat ramp, we have the bridge, we have the riverbank. It's at least a resource that we can look at, I feel like. I think the biggest thing on my list is back to the plan. We lack a plan, and I don't claim to be an expert at city planning. I don't know what the cost will be, but I really feel like that we need as a town a comprehensive plan done by, or at least assisted by, professionals that do this on an everyday basis. I've just read Ashland's. They completed one in 2013, and I read it, and it's that thick. But I read it from cover to cover. It's what we need. We lack that plan. Where are we going to be in 20 years? I have a plan, I believe, for streetscaping per se, that we can make our downtown look better with not a tremendous amount of money. Money we do have, and we're going to spend it in a little bit different way than we have, and try to pick out the highlights of town, if there are any, and start with those first, and try to make it clean and green, and look like a town that you want to come and visit. Interested in recycling. I've talked to Katrina about this some, and I've tried to catch John a couple of times, and we haven't met up yet. But I want to talk to John about the capacity of the recycling center, what the county's vision for it is. The county owns it. I think it's a little hard to do that out in the county, but it's not as hard to do it in the city. So, and I'm talking about voluntary, but I believe we have a lot of people who would participate in a volunteer recycling program. If we've got the plant up there to build the stuff with, I believe in town we can make the pickup, whereas the county's going to always have trouble ever doing that. We have the resources in town, I believe, to do that without a great cost to the people. So if I can provide services back to the people for the taxes you already pay, that's a win-win for everybody. We need to revamp the parks. I love the mini park. The stage there needs a lot of, I think it can be redone. Don't have to be tore down, but it could be redone with a good plan and turned into music venues that we could have through the summer. And Keith and I have already talked about that. With that, any questions?
You barely touched on this, but the wet dry vote.
Imagine that.
I assumed it would pass, but I didn't realize it passed a great deal. I have heard people say, well, if it passes, there's going to be a beer joint on every corner and all this other stuff. And based on what I read in the paper, that's simply not true. How many carryouts can Louisa have, or restaurants that could serve alcohol?
Bill, I understand that everybody now is so excited about it, and as I read the city officials' legal handbook right after I was elected, I want to tell you that the chapter pertaining to alcohol and beverages is the most confusing one I read in the entire book. So I'm very cautious to say much, because I grew up in Orange County like you did. I never had to think about this before. So I'll tell you what I know if you won't hold me to it if I'm wrong. What I understand, the quota is on liquor. So if you go by the quota, you can have one liquor store per 2,300 people, but the law goes on to say you won't have a monopoly, so we'll always have two. So we'll qualify for two. So you'll have two liquor stores. That's the quota packs. Now, if I understand it right, on the non-quota stuff, which would be beer, okay, non-quota, we're not limited to two. So that's my understanding. If Speedway wanted it and the Birdhouse wants it, and as far as just buying it in the store, carrying it out, there won't be a limit. If I understand, I don't think that's limited to to anything that anybody that wants to buy a license. The bar drink, now you're talking, how will you drink it at a facility? You will only drink it at a facility that's a restaurant that seats 50 or more people, and a certain percentage of sales comes from food. The bar things, whatever, you read that, it will only be issued bar, like a bar in cities of first and second class, which we're not. So to have a bar, you would have to have a restaurant.
Okay.
That way everybody else understands it. If I'm wrong, don't it's very confusing. They've named the license now NQ2 and Q2 and Q4, and it's very confusing. None of us have dealt with it before, so I'm trying to be very cautious. But I do know it's going to make a lot of work for the city for the next 2 months, because we've got to pass an ordinance pertaining to this. I agree with you, but also we was talking about this at the table. I hear this population number, how small Louisa is, so much. We can't do this because we only have 2,500 people. We can't do that because of our population. It wasn't very many years ago, I remember them saying, Louisa would never support a Walmart. It wasn't that many years ago, that was the talk. We'll never support a Walmart. And probably the 2,500 people in Louisa wouldn't support Walmart. But Louisa, Lawrence County, Martin County, Wayne County, West Virginia, the residents from over there that come here and shop, I don't think that our population is the trigger that we need to go by. We support a Walmart. If we support a Walmart, our population of Louisa, 2,500, don't count thousands of people traveling on the 4-lane every day. And so we've got to use those resources. And I believe if we can support a Walmart, we can support a whole lot.
Absolutely.
Potholes that were identified earlier in the year with paint to be repaired, and that never happened. What can we expect going forward?
More paint, right? Right, Harry, more paint.
That was so you know how to dodge them. Real quick, the city, I'm involved with that actually. The city had gotten some money to blacktop with. They got their money late. It was first thought that they was going to join forces with the county, and the county was going to do some of the work and then pay the blacktop. That didn't transpire, so we put the city back to bid. The first bid they got was outrageous. They couldn't do it, and put them to bid again. By the time they got to bid again, they'd identify the holes, and you know the story. It's December, it's cold weather. And so now they do have the money, but the decision was made then, we're going to invest all of our blacktop money, blacktopping in December, when it's really not the time of year to do it. And so the decision was made at council to patch the holes, and that was my recommendation to him. Teddy asked me, I said, if it's me, I'd patch the holes you got to patch, and then resurface next spring. And so that's what they did, identified the holes, and we had an unusual cold spell there early. I mean, it's warmed up now later, but I just think that even the company that come and agreed to do it, Teddy's still wanting them to do it, and I don't know if the plant's closed, maybe, I don't know. It got too cold to do it. So the money's there, and
But
what I want
potholes
to...
are going to be worse by next year, going through another winter, so.
Absolutely.
So there may not be enough money to do it all, but that would be my concern.
But I know one thing I wanted to do in Meadowbrook out there, which is one bad spot right there, is now the street is only about that much from being to the top of the curb, up level with the sidewalk. So I want to mill it up and put it down right now. If we put another layer on over it, which is what they're going to do, you're going to have water running from the street into the yards. So hopefully in the spring we can do it right. But I agree with you, and I know every council member in Teddy wanted to get it done before winter, and just cold weather hit too soon. Thank you all.